What was so special about May 17th? Nothing special. It wasn't my wife's birthday, our anniversary, or even the first day we met. It was an ordinary day, an ordinary Tuesday, and that's why I chose it. My name is Keith, and my marriage to Lisa after 12 years was starting to get a little outdated, or should I say predictable. It's not that I didn't love her. She and the kids were the most important things in my life. However, that little spark that used to appear in her eyes when I mentioned making love seemed to be missing lately. So, being a hopeless romantic, I decided to give her a night she would never forget. Monday morning at work, I pulled out the big guns, Kathy, Cheryl, and Karen, three of the hottest single women at work. Okay, ladies, if you could script the most romantic night of your life, what would it be? I asked them. Around midnight, they all started rattling off to Paris, making love in a gondola in Venice, or admiring the sunset from a hot tub over the Swiss Alps. Easy, girls, I told them. I'm thinking more about a romantic night at home or in one of the downtown hotels, something that won't break my bank account. By noon, they came back with a list of ideas that were now in my price range. I thanked them, bought them lunch, and started making plans. They seemed almost as excited as I was, jumping up and down, telling me I better not fail because they now had a bet on how my evening would end. The first thing I did was take Wednesday afternoon off so I could get everything done before she got back. I usually got home around 6, but Lisa was always home by 4:30 to meet the kids as they got off the school bus. Tuesday night, I told Lisa that my parents wanted to take the kids to dinner and a show on Wednesday, so they probably wouldn't get home until 8 o'clock that evening. The kids got even more excited when I told them that I had a surprise for their mom and that they would indeed be spending the night with their grandparents. My parents have always been terrible at spoiling them. I left work on Wednesday around 11:30 with my safe list in hand. Let's see, free time, kids at mom's. A trip to the store followed. Let's see, a sweet card, tons of good chocolate, and her favorite wine. The girls gave me a full list of everything that needed to be done, right down to the lighting and mood music. The florist looked at me strangely when I asked her for 2 pounds of rose petals, that is, until I told her what I was going to do with them. You must really love your wife to go to all this trouble for her, she said when I left the red rose petals in my hand. I finally made a reservation for 8 at Lisa's favorite steakhouse. I figured we'd need some food by 8, and if we decided to cancel dinner, I'd make sure we had steaks in the fridge to grill on the patio. Things were finally starting to come together. I came home, stashed the car behind the house, and brought everything into the kitchen. Let's see, 2:30, that gives me an hour to get everything ready, I said to myself. Over the next hour, I froze wine in the freezer, made a huge heart on the bed with rose petals, and, taking pieces of chocolate, wrote the words, "I love you," in the center. I filled a garden tub with water and sprinkled the remaining rose petals on top of the bubbling water. On my side of the bed, I put wine in an ice bucket, and on her night table, I placed a card next to the reading lamp. I dimmed the overhead light, opened a bottle of wine, and poured 2 glasses. I set our portable CD player on the dresser and decided I would turn it on after she entered the bedroom. The last thing I did was shower, shave, and strip naked. At exactly 3:25, I heard her car pull up. I was more than ready. I closed the bedroom door, stood at the foot of the bed naked, holding 2 glasses of wine, and waited for her to come upstairs. I heard muffled laughter and what sounded like a pack of horses coming up the stairs as they burst through the bedroom door. Yes, I said them. Lisa and her boss, Rick. Do you know how long 4:75 seconds lasts? It's like one huge sigh when your eyes meet hers, or 3 heartbreaking beats, but enough time to kill the romantic mood and destroy a marriage. It took Lisa's brain 5 seconds to determine that something had changed when she ran into our bedroom. Her shirt was unbuttoned and her bra was already off. Her brain then sent a pulse to her voice box that took approximately 20 seconds for her to utter the words, "Oh my God," and finally 25 seconds to realize she was fucked, so to speak. If it wasn't a world record for destroying a marriage, it had to be at least second. Rick, seeing what was happening, turned around and ran to the front door. He was gone in less than 45 seconds. I, on the other hand, watched as Lisa started to cry and fell to her knees. I pour the contents of both glasses on the bed, walk over to the closet, and start getting dressed. all the while listening to Lisa tell me how sorry she was and how much she loved me. It took me about 5 minutes to get dressed and tell her that it was in her best interest for her to leave before I got back. I went downstairs, got in my car, and drove to the nearest establishment where I could get a drink. So there I sat at Tony's, finishing my fourth mug of beer, wondering what my next move would be. At 6:30, I returned to my now quiet and empty house. The front door was unlocked, and Lisa's car was nowhere to be found. After a quick pee downstairs, I headed for our bedroom. Everything was pretty much the same as when I left. The garden tub was running, the wine, the card, the chocolates were there, untouched. Lisa's closet was open, as were several dresser drawers. I sat down on the bed and tried to get my thoughts in order when my cell phone rang. I turned it off without answering it because I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone right now. I know I should replace the mattress in the guest room, I said to myself when I woke up the next morning. I showered, shaved, and headed to work, but I looked more like a zombie on the way to my office. "So, how'd it go?" all three girls screamed as they ran into my office. "From the looks of you, it must have been a hell of a night," Karen giggled, elbowing the other two. "Oh, it was," I replied, telling them the short version of last night. "Bitch," Katie said a little too loudly. "What are you going to do?" Cheryl asked. "Survive and take care of my kids," I muttered. "So if you don't mind, please keep quiet about this. I don't want to be the laughing stock of the whole office," I told them. They left, telling me how sorry they were and that if I needed someone to talk to, they were always there for me. I thanked them and closed the office door. Bank accounts, credit cards, life insurance policies, 401ks, they were all closed or changed by 9:30 a.m. I then called my parents and told them that Lisa and I were having some problems and asked if they could keep the kids until the weekend. They were saddened to hear this and were more than happy to watch the kids. Checking my cell phone, I found 20 messages from Lisa. I threw them all away. The lawyer gave me the name of a good lawyer at a reasonable price, if possible, and I made an appointment for Friday morning. You never truly know how screwed up you are until you spend 2 hours with a divorce lawyer, until he or she lays out your options, or lack thereof. It was your word against hers. Lisa and Rick hadn't done anything yet when you caught them, and you can't kick her out of the house because it was her house, too. You know what really pissed me off was that she would probably get custody of the kids, the house, and at least 40% of what I earned after taxes. I was fucked and not even kissed. He suggested marriage counseling, or at least a 90-day cooling-off period before I did anything. "Look, Keith, no matter what you do, you're going to be paying alimony for the next 8 years at least, plus house payments. The only thing you can do is bide your time and try to minimize your losses. Look, if it were me, I'd move into a spare bedroom and make home life as easy as possible for your kids," he suggested. I left early and moved all my junk into the spare bedroom. I bought a new mattress and tossed the old one to the curb. I never returned Lisa's calls, but I knew she was likely to show up at the house sooner or later, so I made sure to be ready for her. I picked up the kids on Friday on my way home from work and took them to a pizza place. They told me what a great time they had, but were excited to get home. Lisa finally showed up at about 8:30 that evening. The kids surrounded her on all sides, but she never once took her eyes off me. By 10 o'clock, they had dispersed to their rooms, and I headed to the guest room. Lisa asked if we could talk later, but I told her I wasn't in the mood. "Maybe tomorrow," I said as I closed and locked the door. I heard a muffled scream as she looked around what used to be our bedroom. I heard sheets being pulled off the bed and other sounds as I imagined her trying to clean up the room. Saturday morning, I noticed a card, rose petals, and chocolates in the trash can, along with an empty bottle of wine. The kids had breakfast and went about their usual Saturday business, friends and soccer. I wasn't really hungry, so I just made coffee. Lisa came downstairs just as I was finishing the first cup. I poured myself another, grabbed the newspaper, and went out on the deck. "You know you're going to have to talk to me sooner or later," she said through red eyes. "But why Lisa? What can you tell me to explain what I saw on Wednesday? How long have you been cheating on me with Rick?" "It was only the second time." "Believe me, honey," Lisa sobbed. "Why I have a hard time believing you. And by the way, you've lost the privilege of calling me sweetheart or anything else that sounds affectionate," I spat out. "We're going to coexist for the sake of the kids until I realize what's best for me and for them. It sounds like you've already made your choice." Just then, Lisa ran into the house and I finished my coffee and tore up the paper in a rage. Work sucked for the next 2 weeks, but at least it wasn't as bad as my home life. Someone had blabbed at work, and now all I got were these pitying looks from all the women in my office every time I walked past them. My boss wanted to know if I needed my own personal free time, but I told him I was doing fine, and that I needed a job to stay sane. The kids realized from day one that something was up and asked if they had done anything wrong. "Kids, your mom and I are going through a rough patch, but it's okay. Trust me," I told them, but it wasn't. Lisa tried to talk to me and even tried to seduce me once, but I didn't feel anything for her anymore. I felt worse than whale shit when Cheryl walked into my office on Thursday just before 5 o'clock. "Grab your coat, we're leaving," she announced. I looked up to say something, but she stopped me. "Maybe you don't understand, this is not a request. Grab your damn coat, we're out of here," she announced. When Cheryl and I arrived, there were two more of the formidable trio, Kathy and Karen, sitting at a table in the corner at Anthony's. After ordering a drink, Cheryl started on me. "You need to come to your senses, Keith," she began. "You've been walking around like a dead man for the last 2 weeks, and even though everyone has your back, you're going to be in deep shit if you don't get your head and ass tied up." "I have my reasons, so why don't you just fuck off?" I almost shouted back at her. "Fuck off, asshole, you're not talking to Lisa," Karen replied. "What the hell do you want, Keith? Or are you going to wallow in self-pity for the rest of your life?" "I want things to be the way they were before this shit happened," I said, looking down at my glass. "I thought you said your marriage was outdated and you wanted to revitalize it," Katie asked. "Do you really want to go back to your boring life? Do you love her?" "I love and hate her at the same time. I'd like to strangle her and Rick for what they did to me," I shouted. "I just don't know what the hell to do or even where to start." "Let's eat, and then we'll figure it out," Cheryl said, beckoning the waiter over. "The first thing we need to do is level the playing field. Lisa is still at your house and goes back to work every day. Rick, on the other hand, is coming home to his loving wife and kids even though he ruined your marriage." Cheryl spat out. "It's time for you to get your life back." By the end of the evening, I was feeling better, and they were right. I had to do something. I couldn't let this go on any longer. It was tearing me apart. Lisa wanted to know where I was when I got home. "Here! What do you care?" I shouted as she went to her bedroom crying. The next day, I met with my lawyer, Randy. "I thought you were going to wait for the divorce," he asked. "Yes, I want to sue the company that Rick and Lisa work for and then hit Rick with a love alienation lawsuit," I told him. "Look, Keith, you don't have hard evidence, I told you. I know, but they work for a publicly traded company, and with all the crap in the news lately about corporate mismanagement, I don't think they'd want bad press. Besides, even though Lisa was off duty, don't most managers work until 5? And don't most corporate bylaws have a morals clause about a married boss sleeping with a married employee he controls, especially during work hours?" Randy said it would take a couple days to get everything set up and the paperwork filed, but he would warn me when things were going down. For the next 3 days, I was the same old Keith. I joked around with people at work, had fun with the kids, and even started talking to Lisa again, which made things a little easier for her. On Thursday, Randy called and said their company had been serviced, but I asked him to hold off on Rick's paperwork until we got their company settled. By the following Tuesday, Randy and I were sitting in a conference room across from the CEO and his manager. "We've reviewed the paperwork, and it looks like you forgot to include any documentation of the alleged incident," the manager began. He then said something about frivolous lawsuits and was quite surprised when I stood up and headed for the exit. "I guess I'll see you in court then," I said, rising from my chair. "You know, we're going to take statements from everyone in the office," I said calmly. "How many of them do you think knew what was going on? All I have to do is find 1 or 2, I told them. "And how many managers do you think will defend Rick when their asses are on the line? Good luck, gentlemen," I said as I walked out with Randy. Wednesday, I was sitting at my desk when Randy called. "They want to settle, or as they put it, what it takes to make this mess go away," he told me. "Well, I've requested $250,000, attorney's fees, and that they both be transferred to other state offices. That should cover everything," I told him. "Tell them the offer is good until noon Thursday, and then we'll move on." In the afternoon, I got another call from Randy. They've agreed to the fees and transfers, but they're offering $150,000, he told me. Randy, stop haggling. Tell them the price now is $300,000. And if they come back with another counteroffer, the price will go up to $400,000. Maybe that will end it all. Thursday at 3:30, Randy called to say that my offer had been accepted and that he would have the forms to me for signature by 5 o'clock. True to his word, at 4:30, a package was delivered to my office. The man said he was expected, the receptionist informed me. After reviewing the papers and the enclosed receipt, I signed the papers and handed them over. If anyone is looking for me, I'm gone for the day, I told her as I left the office. In the car on the way home, I made a quick call to Randy. Serve Rick tonight and do it at his house. I was over the moon. By tomorrow, I would have a pound of flesh and I could move on with my life. Okay, everyone, grab your coats because we're going out to dinner tonight, I said as I walked through the door. Lisa looked at me and didn't move as I continued. Come on, Lisa, you too. A wide smile appeared on her face as she ran to get her coat. Over dinner, we talked and laughed as we had done for the past 12 years. Life was good again. Almost good. When we got home, everyone thanked me for a great night and went to their rooms. Lisa came close, kissed me on the cheek, and thanked me for the evening. It meant a lot to me tonight, she said. I told her we were going to have a nice long talk tomorrow night, so she should get some sleep. You son of a bitch! Lisa yelled as she walked through the door. You knew last night what was going to happen tonight, didn't you? Not exactly Lisa, but pretty close, I replied. Where's that job you were offered? I inquired. Tenet, New Jersey, wherever the hell that is. It seems that my services were no longer needed here, and that it was either New Jersey or I was out of a job, she explained. I told them there was no way they were going to move me there, and then they handed me severance pay and gave me 20 minutes to clean my desk, she sobbed. I gave them 8 years, and in 20 minutes I was out the door, she said, sitting on a kitchen chair and sobbing. Where is your buddy Rick being transferred to? I asked. Flint, Michigan, she said, staring at the floor. The armpit of the Northeast, it wouldn't have happened to a nicer guy, I said, grinning from ear to ear. Well, Lisa, this is how the next phase is going to go, I said, pulling my chair over. If you want to be a part of this family, here are the conditions. First of all, you have to get tested for STDs and bring me a health certificate. Then you'll take a polygraph test, and to help you, I'll even ask all the questions beforehand, I said, holding out a paper across the table. As you can see, they start out very easy, but get progressively harder down the list. By the time she got to the last group, she started crying. Am I the biological father of my 2 children? Why was she cheating? When we had sex, the last couple months, who were you thinking about, Rick or me? How often have you lied to me in the last couple months? How many affairs have you had? Do you still love me? You have an appointment tomorrow at 9, I said. And if you get through this without too many surprises, we have an appointment with a marriage counselor for Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Lisa just sat there crying, going through the questions. I can answer them now, if you want, she said. I think I'll wait until tomorrow, I told her. It's just that I don't trust you anymore and I want to start over, without all the lies, if you don't mind. I didn't like all of her answers, but in my mind, she passed. Do I trust her? Hell no. Do I plan on staying with her? Well, the jury is still out on that, but we're working on it. The worst part is that we haven't made love in the last 5 months, and that's what I really miss. We have sex once or twice a week to take the edge off, so to speak, but it's not the same. Rick took a transfer to Flint, Michigan. Last year, I sent him a Christmas card from Florida that said, "Glad you're not here." Oh, by the way, his wife and kids are here. I guess the sunny South beat the cheating husband. Guess what?